Clerk, if you would take the roll, please.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Claudia Rona.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Here.
Mayor Infante.
Here. Thank you. Mr. Clark, if you would lead us
Yes,
in
please.
the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand, place your right hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So we have no ceremonial items. Let us go to public communications. Ms. Clerk, if you would read us the rules for public communications.
The public council welcomes your input at this time. You may address the council on items not on the agenda and on consent. Time limit is 3 minutes. We will start with in-person comments first.
Thank you. I have one slip here from Stephen Sandoval, I believe it is. Oh, okay. Celine Sandoval. My apologies. Well, I didn't read that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Celine Sandoval, and I'm the director of the San Ynez Valley Youth Coalition here in the Solvang area, and I am a resident of Solvang. At your last meeting, you began discussion and have delayed your decision regarding the change of the municipal code to allow for the sale and establishment of a storefront for recreational cannabis in Solvang. The San Ynez Valley Youth Coalition is a collaboration of volunteer community leaders dedicated to promoting healthy lifestyles and preventing and reducing substance misuse among youth and adults. The coalition focuses on implementing research-based best practices, policies, and prevention programs. As you consider your decision, please consider our youth and the data. Marijuana is the most used drug amongst California youth, while vaping is on the rise. 1/3 of California high school students report having tried marijuana, and 15% reported having it used in the last 30 days. Marijuana use in youth, especially with the developing brain, has short and long-term health consequences, including an increase for mental health problems, including depression and suicides. I invite the opportunity to meet with you individually or to present to the City Council data and insight in our local community during March 13th meeting alongside Chief Mark Valencia. While we know a storefront is intended for the sale of cannabis to adults, inevitably in our local community, you're also increasing the access to our youth, a problem that we see and deal with daily in our local schools. In my professional role, I have worked with the school system for over the last decade, including overseeing a Pirates Cove at the San Ynez Valley High School, where we promote intensive case management and peer mentoring to the youth, and intervention strategies as well. Drug use, especially of marijuana, is prevalent and impacts every corner of the students' lives in our community. I urge the council to seek data before tax revenue and understand the implementations to the health of our local youth within your decisions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another comment from Joanne Clark. It's a general, not on the specific
Yes.
item.
Yes, I've been meaning to come with this since last year, but waited for the new city council to be seated. So I'm here to speak about my concern about fiscal responsibility. Last year, the city gave $5,000 to the coordinator of the Juneteenth parade. The council also gave $25,000 to People Helping People. I will address this first. We all know that People Helping People is a good organization. They do good things here in our valley. However, there are many organizations who are good organizations who do good things here in our valley. The Vikings, the Rotary Clubs, and the Elks, to name a few. Solvang City residents' tax dollars should not be spent to support these organizations. Solvang City residents can donate to any one of these organizations as much as they wish. All of them welcome donations. They can choose who they wish to support with their time or their money. As far as special interest parades, as I mentioned, the City of Solvang should not be hosting special interest parades. We need to adopt a policy prohibiting them. Parades close down city streets, which affects business and traffic for both business owners and residents. It also takes city workers away from their responsibilities, which they have a difficult enough time accomplishing when there is not a disruption. It also requires law enforcement to be taken from their daily assigned responsibilities. There are many worthy special interests: breast cancer awareness, cruelty to animals, child trafficking, anti-abortion, Christian ministries, individual politics. The list goes on and on. Our visitors who come to Solvang would expect a 4th of July parade, a Christmas parade, and a Danish Days parade. All of these enhance tourism and would be expected and supported. And I believe at least 90% of Solvang residents would support these parades, as well as our local school Halloween and homecoming parade. But when we start granting a parade to one special interest, we will be required to offer to all, or open the door to bias accusations if one is granted and one is refused. Special interest is just that, special individual interests. We're all different and unique in our interests. There's nothing wrong with that. If someone wishes to host a special interest event, they are most welcome, like anyone, to secure a location and have their event at their expense. But we do not need to be spending precious city funds and resources supporting special interests. We have too many important areas that need funding, specifically water challenges like waste treatment and our infrastructure. If we have a major earthquake before our water lines are updated, we could be without water for months. It's nice to be nice and care. However, your main responsibility as a council is to use our city funds wisely for essential, important, and necessary city needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask that you come across. Lee, if you keep going. Mr. Duncan, Lansing.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Lansing Duncan. Congratulations to the city and yourselves on submitting Solvang's draft housing element to the state. I'm sure you're ahead of many other jurisdictions. I want to thank the council for listening to the concerns of residents and working to make the housing element a planning document that the city, its residents, and yourselves can live with. A very important part of that was looking critically at the generic proposal suggested by the out-of-town consultant who was unfamiliar with the lay of the land and the serious environmental constraints involved, and who discounted the importance of long-term cumulative impacts like traffic congestion and water consumption. You were able to think outside the box and develop a more creative site-specific proposal because you distinguished between the obvious difference between two different parcels. I want to thank your staff, and particularly Sophia Cheka, for making sure that difference was clearly articulated in the housing element, and the details of the proposed lot line adjustment proposal were made clear to the state, future Solvang decision makers, and the public. On a related subject, I'd like to suggest a correction to the minutes of January 23rd. On page 6 of the minutes and 11 of the packet, the housing element discussion misrepresents my comments when it fails to distinguish between Site C and the different parcels. The minutes claim I, quote, spoke in opposition to proposed development of Site C, felt the site is not necessary to build affordable housing, end quote. This should read, spoke in opposition to proposed development of the steeper hillside parcel of Site C, felt the parcel was not suitable or necessary for affordable housing because it would be too expensive to develop. And I'm going to hand a copy that's got that highlighted to Anna Marie in the event that somebody would actually suggest a correction to the minutes for that letter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate that. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Please approach, tell us who you are.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name's Stephen Martin. I live at 698 Hillside Drive in Solvang. And I would like to add maybe the light was went yellow on me here, but I'm not going to talk long. But on my behalf, on behalf of my wife and a number of residents, many of whom you have heard from over the last weeks and months, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and council members and staff for all the hard work you put in on getting our 6th housing element ready to be sent to the state. As I think Lansing mentioned, to think imaginatively, to come up with a solution to encourage construction of our much-needed affordable housing while also preserving as much as possible our limited resources in our beautiful city and our neighborhoods within the city. I'd like to specifically thank also Councilman Brown for coming out to the Site C and coming up with an imaginative solution that would meet our objectives. And I would like to also thank the planning staff and Sophia Cheka, who took your directives and put them in effective language in the housing element so that in the future it can be carried out according to your wishes and the wishes of many who spoke before you. Anyway, I'm a fairly new resident of Solvang. I've been here about 3 years, but I love the city and appreciate the way in which you are managing it and governing it, and would look forward to working with you constructively in the future on not only the housing element, but other issues that come before the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else in the audience who would like to speak? Mr. C.J. Jackson, please come up. This is for non-agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, I'm presuming that the housing element is not on tonight's agenda.
No,
Would-
It's not.
It is not, therefore it would be safe for me to comment thereof. I'm a firm believer that if you snooze, you lose. And I have not been here to discuss the component I'm about to. We've been a little distracted over on our property, you might be aware.
Understatement.
And the latest additional benefit of water was less than supportive of our operation. Therefore, I have had my attentions turned somewhat away from the housing element and the articulate and emotional and passionate presentations on one out of the 4 of the component properties that you identified for further development. So I'm going to speak to the one that didn't get a whole lot of conversation. My family owns the parcel on Alisal Road. It has not been utilized or developed, nor is there a current existing plan for development of that site. We were approached by a former city manager to discuss the prospect of adding it to the housing inventory looking forward to the rent process. And we have had an interest in workforce housing, as has just about anybody who hires anybody in this jurisdiction has an interest in workforce housing. Being somewhat distracted as I was, and I did get to watch many of my neighbors speak to the parcel on Alamo Pintado, and they were fairly effective in perhaps altering your perspective on that site and your choices. What I then read was that there then seemed to be an offload of the affordable component that might have been on that parcel and shifted it to another parcel, the one to which I'm interested in. When you shift that burden, the cost effectiveness and the economics on that other parcel therefore are changed. And I would wonder if the expanded affordable burden will make the economics that might have made something more palatable or perhaps more viable altered. And I recognize that in the city of Solvang, if you are an effective arbiter for your community and you come out in mass, they place a burden on you on the dais to decide therefore. So I'm concerned that your decision to merely take from property A and move to property B, the voice that might tell you otherwise was not there to do so. I'm concerned. The attractive nature of how that property might be utilized may be significantly different with the product mix that you're encouraging through your housing element. Therefore, I would ask you to look carefully because, unfortunately, and I know my time is up, the problem of housing in Solvang has been a can that has been kicked down the road year in and year out. You will face it in the next rent cycle if it is not met now. And merely identifying property in your inventory does not secure that it will indeed be developed. It merely satisfies the state's requirement that you identify it. So if the properties you identify are economically challenged, as the gentleman who spoke earlier, with the affordable component, have you advanced the ball down the field? My question to you is, have you? I'm not so sure. We will have to take a look at our property and decide accordingly. And I think that merely moving one to the other, from one column to the other, doesn't meet the burden you face. So I thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, CJ. We keep getting stuff on the screen that doesn't. Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come up.
Thank you. My name is Chris Brown. I'm the pastor at Bethania Lutheran Church in Solvang. I wasn't planning on speaking about this. I'm going to be speaking later as well. But if the conversation ever goes to special interest parades, I just want to say that last year we had 4 parades. One of them was a 4th of July parade, which I could guess you could say is not a special interest parade. 2 of them were just mentioned as parades that we should have, Christmas and Danish Days. And there was only one other parade we had last year. I would like to say, as a Christian pastor, Christmas parade is a special interest parade. We live in a country that guarantees a separation of church and state. That is a special interest parade. Celebrating Danish culture is a special interest parade. These are special interest parades that I support, that I participate in, and that my church participates in. The other special interest parade, the Pride Parade, is another parade that I support, I participate in, and my church will participate in. If this council ever gets to a point of talking about special interest parades in the future, I just hope that you realize that you would be prioritizing Christmas and Danish culture over pride when that conversation happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir. General comments only, not on the agenda items?
Yes,
Okay.
and I will be brief. My name is Jerry Rounds. I first came to the valley probably 60 years ago, and I moved out into the valley over 30 years ago. And I just kind of was thinking what I would say, and then the woman in the striped shirt spoke, and I thought she did very well, and I just kind of want to underline what she said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jerry. Yes, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? Do we have anybody on Zoom that was interested in saying something that's not on the agenda? I don't see anybody else. All right. In that case, we will take it back and let our city manager tell us what's happening.
Okay, I have just one thing to report. I'm going to speak into the microphone because apparently there's been some sound issues is what I'm
Yeah.
information on. So just one report. As I've told you the last few meetings, we hired a community resource officer who's been out contacting all the businesses in town on the weekends and letting them know what they may have that's illegal. And so, as reported, March 1st will be when we start sightings. People have gotten their warnings, and we're going to be moving forward with that. So just want the community to aware that will be happening starting on the 1st of March. For future agenda items, I'm going to list what's on our advanced calendar. The Measure U Citizen Oversight Committee will be on the next agenda. Our investment policy annual review, Measure A 5-year local program of projects, a housing element update. That's actually our general plan update that we have to provide to the state. And two other items, Solvang trolley electric bus license, a public hearing for that, or electric trolley license, I'm sorry. And the Santa Barbara Sheriff report on the adult use cannabis issue that the council requested a report from on that. So that will be on our next city council agenda. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Okay, council, do you have any specific questions? Staff report or comments?
I have a comment. I don't know if there's something that we can do about it, but over the weekend we got a lot of visitors despite of the rain. And like most of us, they rely on Google Maps to get here. And one common thing that stood out is that Google Maps keeps telling everybody to take the 154 to get here because it's the shortest route, even though it's not the safest route. So maybe there is a way that us as an agency can reach out to Google and say, hey, this is an issue that needs to be addressed, because it's baffling that they would recommend a route like that when there is black ice on the road.
I can definitely check into that. Can't give you an answer on it, whether we can have any luck with that, but we can research it.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments, questions of the staff report?
Operator, get me Google.
Anything else? All right, in that case, let's discuss, Ms. City Clerk, the consent items, if you would give us what that's all about, please.
Consent is designed for routine administrative city matters and is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on request of council members. Members of the public were afforded an opportunity to speak on consent items during the public communications portion of this agenda.
Okay, do any of you have a consent item that you want to pull?
No.
No? Can I have a motion then to accept the consent item? I'm sorry. Turn your microphone.
This is also for the minutes in the consent item. I'm looking through here.
Yes.
I'd like it, the minutes modified as per Mr. Duncan's comments, if that's doable.
Without going back and looking at the audio to determine whether or not that was precisely what he said, the minutes clerk takes it from the audio of that meeting, and it's not a best practice to be modifying the minutes to a person's recollection over the audio. I'm not saying that they're different, but it's not a good practice to do that. What you might do is refer it back to staff to determine whether or not what Mr. Duncan said this evening is consistent with what he said at the last meeting, and if so, we can bring the minutes back at a subsequent meeting for approval.
Thank you.
Okay. Good idea. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. I
Pull
forgot
those
about that.
minutes, the approval of those minutes, correct.
Yeah, right. We need to approve the poll, excuse me.
Yeah, pull the minutes.
Poll B, the minutes for that meeting. And if there's no other question, then we need a motion to. B is poll.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes or the consent, approve the consent agenda items minus item B.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Rona,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's go on to the next agenda item then. Item 5. Ms. Clark, if you would present that to us. That says public hearings. Yeah, it's item 6, because 5 on here says public hearings. We don't have any. My apologies. Number 6, please.
Discussion and direction on the city's marketing contract.
Just gonna add that it sounds like we're having some technical mic issues here on this table, and the Zoom link is not working right now. Give you an update.
That's going to be difficult, isn't it? 'Cause I know there was a few people that I had heard from that were going to be coming in on Zoom. Okay.
Does he need a break?
He's working on it. Okay, in that case,
Do we want a break to get it to work? Or?
can you get it fixed in the next couple of minutes if we take a break? All right, let's take a 5-minute break, please, and let's see if we can get this corrected so we can bring the rest of the residents in.
Trying to cover it
You're the one who got warned over. So I've heard. But you carry a big stick.
Nice conversation. The rest
Okay. I wanted to make sure. Got it.
everybody here come on your video?
Oh, there we go.
Test,
Okay,
test.
we're live. Thank you. Okay, so what I was trying to say, what the mayor meant to say a few minutes ago.
Excuse me, Mark. Wendy has come up with a link that the people on the outside trying to get in can get to. So, well,
Possibly.
so if you're on Zoom trying to get in, the ID number is 819-5697-8632.
Oh, you can remember that.
Can you repeat that?
819-5697-8632.
But if they can't get into Zoom, they probably didn't even hear that.
Right. You better text us to all.
Okay, sorry.
So nitpicky.
Okay, so Cheryl's ready.
One step forward, two steps back. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for putting up with us. We apologize for the delay. We're going to have to proceed without Zoom for the time being, and we'll hope the gentleman in the tech support area can get us back online. But we need to proceed, and as the attorney has said, there's no legal requirement for Zoom, so we will proceed. We are with item 6. Madam Clerk, if you would introduce that for us, please.
Discussion and direction on the city's marketing contract.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. I am Cheryl Schallenberger, the marketing manager for the city of Solvang. In April of 2022, the city of Solvang went out to request for proposal for tourism marketing services. 11 proposals were received, the Tourism Advisory Committee evaluated them and held a special meeting in May where 4 candidates were interviewed. I'm losing my spot, sorry. The interviews were conducted in June. At that meeting, the Tourism Advisory Committee selected Abbey Agency as a top recommended consultant for the council to consider an approval. On June 13th, City Council meeting, the city manager was authorized to negotiate a 2-year contract with the Abbey Agency that was executed in a total cost of $600,000. Attachment B is the professional services agreement, including the scope of work. The Abbey Agency has been providing marketing services based on the agreement for the last 7 months. On February 15th, the Abbey Agency asked to meet with the city manager, the mayor, and marketing manager to review the scope of work and progress in person. Due to feedback from the TAC and council, the Abbey Agency acknowledged the partnership might no longer be beneficial for all parties involved and provided a verbal 30-day resignation. A written notice was received on February 21st, attachment A. Since then, we have had going offboarding process. The Abbey Agency has detailed quite a few of the items on the offboarding policies and procedures. We do have a call on Wednesday to go over those as well. Since then, I've also been reaching out to local contacts to help with the social media and public relations efforts on a short-term basis. I will also review the last RFP for the marketing services, review the scope of work, and bring notes to the next TAC meeting. I can also work on creating a draft budget for the remainder of the fiscal year, that the remaining funds allocated to the Abbey Agency agreement. This would be an interim plan to continue operations. We have also included that the 3 other agencies that were interviewed were Charlotte from Virginia Beach, TJA Advertising from Pismo, and Verdon out of San Luis Obispo. We've put the amount paid so far to Abbey Agency out of the $300,000 contracted for this year, which was almost $180,000. We still do not have a final invoice as they are still doing a month of offboarding. That's my report. Any questions?
Thank you. Council?
Cheryl, I had a question. Do we have any proprietary information or assets that belong to us that need to come back?
Yeah, so all the creative assets that they created will be handed over to us. So they are creating a zip drive with all of those creatives that they created on behalf of City of Solvang, and they will be in our ownership.
So can we get a catalog of what those assets are? It should include some branding, a strategic plan.
right? All those deliverables that we invoiced and paid for.
Yep, we do have the marketing plan already in place, and then all the other creative assets, we will get those as well.
So when we get those, we need to share them with the TAC.
Okay?
So one of your actions was, right, to recommend how we proceed.
Yep.
And take some of these RFP responses back to the TAC, but it needs to be a complete package, right? So they can make a recommendation to how do we proceed? What can we proceed with? And what's that jump off point that's still useful? And therefore, can we still get what we expected for the remaining 100,000 in the budget? Okay.
Mr. Clark, you had something?
Yeah, what is the status of who has the possession of the Facebook page?
It is with Vashti Wilson, has the full administrative access, and I have limited access.
And that's been agreed to be turned over?
It's on the agenda item for the next TAC meeting.
Got it.
Anybody else? Couple of questions. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, are you able to tell us what is the TAC position on what the project, what the scope of work is that we need? Because we talk about, putting ourselves out there, and we talk a lot about marketing, and we certainly see all the effort that is done in social media. There are a lot of consultants that do social media, and that do not come at the expense of a full-time marketing agency. So there's certainly other options that we can see, but I'd be interested on getting what the TAC thinks that we should do now if these contractors are not working out, because this is, two agencies that we've gone through and we just haven't found a relationship that benefits Solvang.
Yep. So this has all happened since the last TAC meeting. I was on the TAC during the selection of the agency. I had not started in this position. I have reached out to two of the subcontractors that Cogs and Marvel IDK had actually contracted for PR and social media. One is Stiletto Marketing, Anna Ferguson. She does PR. She's done PR for the city. She's done it for Danish Days. She's local. She knows the community. Isla Agency was also a subcontractor under that agreement, and they were handling all the social media efforts. And they both seem interested in offering short-term contracts. So that was kind of my plan for the moment until we can bring it to TAC and review that scope of work.
Is there any talks about doing more traditional tourism marketing work, such as the trade shows or the buyouts, something that, say, Shelby from Visitas White Bee would do? Well, we seem to be focusing a lot on, social media, which reaches one sector, but we don't have a clear direction on, other styles of marketing. Has there been any discussion about that?
So I've been kind of trying to work on and suggesting some of those other options. Obviously, with the tourism marketing budget being fully allocated to this contract and no other funds, I have not been able to pursue those, but it is something that I do think for strong marketing efforts, all options need to be considered and reviewed beyond just social media and PR.
Thank you.
One more question.
Go ahead, please.
You had touched on this. Is it possible that we can just go slow on the ad agency, but pay somebody monthly to handle the social media?
So repeat the question. Slow on the agency. So
On
yep.
the RFP, slow on the agency. Let's get it right. We're spending way too much money on this
So
for the last two episodes. But to pay somebody for social media on a monthly basis and then really put some effort into this RFP for the advertising.
Yep, I completely feel the same way. What I was really thinking is slow down on the spend, review the scope of work of what we're looking at. We are going to be coming up into our summer busy months, so we don't need to be spending a lot on media spend at the moment. Allow us that time to get a marketing plan in place, a good scope of work in place, and then go out to RFP is kind of my game plan.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Cheryl, I thought we paid Abby about $27,000 for media ad buy for this quarter. So do we have a media ad that will run through the end of March?
So they stopped the, so we have paid for media spend for December through the end of March. They did inform me they stopped the media spend on November 15th. That allows time for reconciliation of those payments. So they've said on March 21st, they will do a reconciliation of receipts of what was spent and what we paid, and then we will get the difference back.
Can we get that full accounting then? Because the summary says we paid on invoice.
So yeah, so once
It looks like for a full quarter from January, starting January.
Right. So yeah. So they've stopped the ads. So this is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So they stop. However, it takes a while for them to reconcile all those payments of running. So they have said by March 21st that they will provide a reconciliation of what was actually spent and to what was we paid ahead of time.
Okay, again, back to that, we need that jump off for a couple of things, whether we rewrite a SOW or a statement of work with set of deliverables for a new agency. If there's enough assets, a creative plan, the brand book, the strategic plan, all of that can be used by another agency or built into your own or our own marketing plan, or someone who can just step in as a contractor and take it from here. And or if we need to rewrite a full scope of RFP and go back out to bid. So without some of that detail, I'm not sure we can give you direction, except we need more data. We need more status.
One last question. Have you contacted either of the other two companies that had proposed initially?
I have not. If that's recommendation, I can. I just feel like this is time to reconsider what our scope of work really is going to be instead of just jumping right back into where we started from.
Totally agree.
Okay. At this point, I don't have any meeting requests or comments, requests. Is there anybody sorry? Did you? Yeah, on Zoom. We'll get to there in a second. Is there anybody in-house that would like to make a comment on this subject? Seeing none, then we'll go to Zoom. It looks like Ms. Vashti Wilson would like to comment. Can you turn her on, please? Is that good?
Unmute.
Hello?
There we go.
Now we can hear you, Vashti.
Hi, okay, thank you. Hello to all the council members. Hi, Mayor Infante. Just real quick, I know the Facebook page was mentioned. I do have ownership of the page right now, although Cheryl has full employee rights. So she has full rights to the page. The only thing that she is not able to do is delete the page. From what I've understood, the city, the marketing team had worked for over 6 months to gain access to this page and was not able to do so. After the last TAC meeting, I gained access to the page. And traditionally in this industry, you would not have an employee have ownership rights for the very reason of why the city could not gain access before. If, for example, Cheryl leaves tomorrow or someone else leaves, they take ownership with them. So typically you would want the page to be in the ownership of a general email or account for the city so that the city maintains ownership of that account and not an individual. And for that reason, I thought it best, security-wise, to transfer it at the next TAC meeting to a city official.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else on Zoom want to make a comment? I don't see any more hands. No? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's
Before we close that topic, do we have an email set up for a more permanent transition of the Facebook page ownership?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking
Councilmember
staff.
Arona?
So the way Facebook business pages work is they have to be tied to a personal account of some description. The former city manager had it under her personal account at one point. It transferred through a number of different accounts. I tried for many months to try to get access to that, working with IDK. But Facebook can't just do a generic address unless that address has an account attached to it. It's a way to prevent security issues, bots, and so on. So there has to actually be a physical human behind it. I've asked Ms. Wilson on a couple of occasions to transfer it over as she requested or said she would do to either the city manager or the city attorney. So I'm just waiting for that to happen.
And a slight correction, it doesn't have to be a person. If it's an official government page, a city, a business page, it has to be verified. Once that business is verified, in which Facebook calls the number, verifies the address, the business address, etc., then a person does not have to be connected to it. That business owns that page.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from City Council?
I think it's best at this time that we really think about what we need in terms of marketing before jumping back into another contract. It's expensive, it's hard, it's frustrating on both our end and the agency's end. And I think we've seen for experience that it's best to have the management of our marketing at a local level than on the hands of a contractor that might not understand our needs. So I think I will agree with Cheryl on that one. Let's really take the time to think about what we want to do moving forward.
There will be a Tourist Advisory Committee meeting coming up, and at that time, several issues will be brought up and discussed. And that's one that they will help us, advise us on. So we'll see how that goes. Any other comments, questions?
I have one comment. The late Hazel Mortensen was interviewed on television, and she goes, "What the heck? Solvang's like Disneyland. Everybody knows we're here." And like, kind of take it with that, and then what do we do to tweak that, and make that the next step work for what really benefits Solvang midweek tourism?
Well, the interesting part I have with that, well, there's a lot of comments there. IDK, when they were here, if you'll remember, they got us a Toyota commercial. They got us a Food Network show out at the park. They got us the...
Robert Irvine, yeah.
What are all the little...
Legos.
The Lego.
What are those?
Yeah, those little things. I don't know. But that's a Danish product, which is nice for us, but it's also international in what we got out of it. So those kinds of things, I think, put us a little different than Disneyland, in spite of Hazel's comments.
Those kinds of things.
And that's what we need is some events like that. And I have spoken with Cheryl a couple of times. We need to have some common events calendars with other cities around so that we don't step on each other's toes. I've talked to Dave King over at Buellton and the city manager over there, Scott. And there are some things that we can get done, but I think we need to be able to have a plan, and I think that's where Cheryl is leading us. I don't think we have an action to do on this, do we? It's strictly for information?
The TAC will be discussing this same concept on Thursday at their meeting. So your direction, it sounds like your direction is to get more input from the TAC on the next steps.
Thank you. That's my direction. Let's get some more information from the TAC. Thank you very much. Okay, in that case, let's go on to the next item.
Discussion regarding a request for proposals, RFP, for a new solvangusa.com website.
All right, it's me again. So the City of Solvang obtained ownership of the solvangusa.com website, which was previously owned and managed by the Solvang Conference and Visitors Bureau. Since then, the site has lacked consistent management, and most information is no longer relevant. Along with outdated information, the technology has become antiquated, making much needed revisions hard to update. 2015 was the last time the website went through rebranding. Obviously, a new website would allow for revised branding, better promotion of our Danish capital of America as an attractive leisure and small group travel destination. A new site would inspire future visits, tell stories of the community, and highlight the hotels, events, and local businesses. The site still gets quite a bit of traffic. For a month of December, it was almost 69,000 visits and over 56,000 unique visits. I brought this to the February 2nd Tourism Advisory Committee meeting, and it was unanimous that support to bring it to council, which is why I am here. I did reach out 3 very informal proposals just to get a rough price range and a rough budget. Currently, there is no marketing budget to support a new Solvang USA website. Funding approval would be required for city staff to move forward with the RFP process. Obviously, hosting and maintenance is something that's already been included with the existing marketing budget. But again, this is actually another reason why I kind of want to hold off on the scope of work. I think having a stronger website and then put money to promote it makes much more sense than continue to run SEM and SEO efforts with a site that is needs a little bit of attention.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions?
I have questions. So Cheryl, I have to tie this topic back to Abby because, let me start first with this. Have we really not touched this content since 2015, or was it 2019?
Probably 2019. So the Solvang Conference and Visitors Bureau owned it. So they went through a rebranding in 2015 with an agency called Tempest. And then in 2019, when the organization was defunded, the city then took on ownership of the website. So I think, again, just like the Facebook page, a lot of different hands, a lot of different passing around. So just lack of consistent management and updates on it.
Okay. Abby did a website audit for $12,000. Was this what they audited?
They did provide a website audit. It's been a while. I'd have to pull it up.
Okay, so we need that assessment, which I think we paid for in November.
Correct.
And yeah, that should tell us whether we really need an RFP or not. So do we have any summary of what that audit revealed?
I mean, yes, the fact that it is antiquated and outdated, I mean, the specific details, I'd have to pull that audit back out.
Okay. The stats you gave us from, I guess, traffic analysis on solvingusa.com. Yeah, that alone tells us we're performing terribly, right? Key stats that are duration of visits is a minute 51 seconds, and the bounce rate is extremely high. It's at the high end of average, which means most likely they're coming here onto our website almost by accident, and they're moving off very quickly. That's what that means, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, we really need the results of the marketing professionals that told us what's wrong with our website to determine what needs to be in the RFP as a starter. And then that we should go to RFP. But we're also paying for web hosting under the Abby contract, or we did pay, I should say. What did we host?
So they took over, so the website was being hosted by a company called Tempest, and so basically they've taken over that website, and so now the Abby agency is hosting it. In the offboarding process, they have said on March 15th that they will be providing that back to the city of Solvang. So they're basically, as I call it, keeping the lights on, so the server's running.
What website is that?
The solvingusa.com website.
That
That's
same
the
one
domain,
that's being
yeah.
ignored? Or hasn't been updated?
No, there's been updates done. But so hosting is, just to host a website. So it's the domain and it's the technology to keep the site on. So there's hosting fees for every website. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were going in and making updates to it.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So perhaps, perhaps I'd like to see this combined with the new agency and the design or things that we're going to be going with. They go hand in glove type of scenarios for both the website and the marketing itself, whether it be Facebook or otherwise. And it seems to me like there's a lot of negligence here as it relates to the site. So anything that you can do or move it forward through TAC, and I'd encourage you to give them that direction, to include this as part of their ongoing endeavors with competent agencies and consultants that can help us with.
Yeah, and I think if we have, we can create a scope of work of what's needed, including a website RFP. You can also provide in those RFPs of, agencies can bid on certain parts of the RFP or all of them. So we can keep it all tied together with one agency, but that can be done.
I think there's also opportunity to sell banner space and things of this nature to offset cost associated with it, potentially. But they can look into that as well.
Yep, there's definitely programs that can do that.
Okay, at this point then, if we have no more questions up here, let's take it to.
I think she's looking for direction, so you need a motion to approve?
They take public comment.
Okay, sorry.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment on this? This is on this one right now. Brenda Ball? That's 6B.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Infante and the council members. It's an honor to speak to you this evening. I am Brenda K. Ball. I manage the current SolvangUSA.com website from its infancy, and I created the social media pages that are still being used by Solvang. At the last Tourism Advisory Council, however, it was mentioned that the marketing team could not access the social media. Last September, I sent an email for the marketing director to gain access. Regarding SolvangUSA.com website, it was mentioned that the website was too old to be managed. I want to share with you what the problem is with the current Solvang USA website. It appears that the software, which provided easy access to the management of the website, the CRM, that's the Contact Resource Management software, I'm sure you know, which allowed us to easily maintain the Solvang business listings. And the CMS, as I'm sure you also know, is the content management system, which allowed us to manage the marketing content. Those were canceled probably to reduce cost. However, removing those software systems made the website unmanageable because the web developers built the website to pull information from those two back-end databases. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to serve Solvang.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Jessie Bengoa. I'm actually not here to talk on this subject, but I am a brand marketing executive. It seems like you guys could use a little help with that.
May I suggest then that you talk to Ms.?
Yeah, no, I don't want a job. I just have a comment. My comment is hearing you talk about the website, it sounds like a severely broken situation. I'm a resident of Solvang and a business owner, so I have a vested interest in this. There are multiple options, as your marketing manager could probably tell you, when you are doing these RFPs. It sounds like you're getting extremely overcharged for this. I can tell you that for a fact. And I think Ms. Serona has made some really good points there. You can hire individuals that can build a Squarespace website with the plugins that this woman has just mentioned for probably a 20th of your budget. And it can be done so easily. So I would really recommend that for the city's sake and for our taxpayer dollars, you expand your horizons a little bit and look at some more modern ways to do this, because it really is quite easy. So just a thought.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay, anybody else in the audience? Do we have anybody on Zoom? I think I see a hand up. Is that Vashti again? I believe it is.
It is. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just a quick question regarding that website. The Abbey Agency was supposed to have a content creation shoot for the month of March that was supposed to take place last August. As it stood, they had very few photo assets to use, and so they would have virtually none to transfer unless that shoot is going forward as scheduled. It was approximately $10,000, and it was supposed to give the city enough photos to use for future marketing efforts.
Yeah, that was an issue. Thank you very much. Appreciate that comment. Okay. Do we have any more public comment on this issue? Yes, ma'am. Tracy Beard.
Tracy Beard, Solvang Chamber of Commerce Director. We did give 1,200 assets of photographs to Cheryl last week, and she gave me the thumb drive back today. So we have shared professional photographs with the city that we paid for, so we wanted to make sure you had them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it, Tracy.
Thank you.
That's good. Okay, in that case, we're back to the council for final comments, motions. Boy, it got quiet up here, didn't it?
Social media, go slow.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in that one, that's for sure. Okay, so at this point in time.
I'm going to make a motion, but I'm trying to think through how to simplify. I think it's pretty clear we need to do something about that website. But we're not ready yet to go to RFP. So I'd like to make a motion and direct the staff to work on defining, from what we have right now and from help with the TAC, because I think there's some really good experts there, what it is we need, short-term and medium-term, to update effectively the solvangusa.com website and use those recommendations to come back to the council and advise with detail what an RFP should constitute. And so if we have that would be my motion.
Okay, so at this point in time, that's actually not a motion, it's a staff recommendation or request. So if we get the staff information back after the TAC meeting and it comes back to our next meeting, or a follow-on meeting where we can put it on the agenda, then we can discuss it at that time, because what I'm hearing is nobody's willing to move to accept anything or to approve anything right now.
We don't have definition of an RFP.
Okay,
We also don't have this as a resolution or an amendment, so there's nothing to make a motion on.
correct. Well, Mr. Attorney.
You could give staff direction to release an RFP with certain parameters, but those parameters don't sound like they're formulated at this point at the council level. So the TAC can certainly provide input, staff can provide that information back to council, or perhaps even with an RFP draft with those issues. But that's not something that can be done tonight.
Yes, I think Councilmember Elizabeth Rona made some very good points, and I think they should take your direction.
If I may add, I don't think it's worth it at this time to find an agency that serves all of our needs, because they clearly don't. Everybody goes in and goes, oh yes, I can manage your website and promote your events and put in the word out and manage the social media at the incredible price of $300,000 a year. And then they always fall short. And I know there are a lot of resources where, you know, you give somebody the website and they'll do their website. It might not be the scope of work that a professional marketing agency put in a glossy magazine for us, but it will be better than something that hasn't been updated since 2019, and it'll be way easier to hold accountable than, you know, having a huge, you know, scope of work. So I think at this point it would be better to break it down, you know, find somebody to do the website, find somebody to do the social media, and then we can worry about everything else afterwards. But, you know, I don't think we're getting our money's worth about getting a package deal.
But Cloud, that can only be effective if we have a cohesive strategy that you let different contractors plug into. And we don't have, I haven't heard yet what the strategy is. So if we parse out the work, which still could be effective and probably cheaper, you have to have an integrated mission. And it doesn't sound like we have that yet.
Well, having it hasn't given us our money's worth either. So maybe breaking down the task would be better than trying to find somebody that says that they can do it all. That's just what I'm saying.
That's what our public comment, the young lady was speaking of, was the idea of different people doing different parts of it. And I think that's an excellent point. If we don't have an overall strategy of what we want, we can't tell you what we want each piece to do. So we need that.
But the TAC will be bringing this up on Thursday, and I think
Yes, they will.
They probably know what's going on at this meeting right now, and they're probably through
Chairman is
Cheryl
on.
getting direction or suggestions, and we'll go from Thursday.
My only concern, will you be able to get those assets from Abby prior to Thursday's meeting? Those assets are including, as eloquently stated, the strategic plan and whatnot that's already been paid for. And
So the strategic plan we have in our position, so that has been completed. So I did actually include that as an attachment to the TAC agenda, so that strategic plan is included in there. I believe they have, I have a call with them on Wednesday, so I can find out when they will be turning over the assets and see if they can I can reach out tomorrow and see if they can get it to us by Thursday.
Microphone, please.
That'll be important at Thursday's meeting.
Any last comments?
Nope.
In that case, thank you very much, Ms. Schellenberger. Let's go on to the next agenda item, please. City Clerk.
Discussion and possible action to review the fiscal year 22-23 mid-year budget and to approve the mid-year budget adjustments.
Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. My name's Wendy Berry, and I'm the
Get closer, yeah.
Administrative Services Director. And tonight we'll look at reviewing the mid-year budget and the mid-year budget adjustments. The mid-year budget review allows council to develop an understanding of the city's financial status halfway through the fiscal year from July 2022 through December of 2022. Transient occupancy tax, sales tax continue to rise. TOT, which is transient occupancy tax, and property tax and sales tax are the main revenue sources for the general fund. From July through December, the city received $3,419,807 in transient occupancy tax, which is 56% of the total revenue received in 21-22. From July through November, the city received $820,556 in sales tax revenue, which is 39% of the entire year. However, we don't have December's figures, so that's not included. So the general fund overview for 22-23, the budget revenues was $10,977,833, and the actual revenue received is $5,491,304, which is 50% of the revenue. If you're looking at the two charts from 21-22 to 22-23, 21-22 was significantly higher because that was the return from COVID. The general fund expenses overview in table 2, the total administration is budgeted was $14,009,923, and to date we've received we've spent $4,868,799, which is 35% of the actual expenses for the year. And at mid-year, we should be at 50, so we're actually below our targeted amount. And then for the water fund overview, total revenue budgeted was $5,302,270, and to date, we received $2,709,738, which is 51% of the water revenue. And for the water expenses, the budgeted amount for the year is $7,125,676. To date, we've spent $1,850,263, which is 26%. You'll see the acquisition of the suspended table A for $820,000, and that is a carryover from year to year to purchase an extra 200 acre-feet of state water from CCWA. However, there's an issue and the county won't release the rights. So until they release the rights, the city can't purchase their allotment of the 200 acre-feet. So that's why that gets carried over every year. With the wastewater fund, total revenue budgeted was $2,363,378. Year to date, we've received $1,021,659, which is 43% of the revenue. However, the SYCSD has not paid, they've only paid 29% of their revenue. So that's why the wastewater revenue isn't right at 50%. And the expenses budgeted was $1,883,348, with year-to-date of $687,650, which puts us at 37% of the expenses. The unrestricted fund balances, the net change for general fund is $622,505 for the first 6 months. The water fund is $859,475, and the wastewater fund is $334,009. Staff is presenting the following budget adjustments for the 22-23 budget. The total increase in revenue for the general fund was $523,000, and for the general fund expenses is $522,831. The water fund budget adjustments is $90,600, and the water fund is $10,600. So the total budget adjustments to date is $522,831, which includes council, administration, planning, recreation, tourism, public works, water, and sewer. Do you have any questions? And we do have staff here that if you have any specific questions per department, they can answer those questions.
Questions?
Sorry. Just a really quick question, just to make sure that I understand. So projected budget, that is for the whole fiscal year, right? And the year to date is, we're about halfway through the fiscal year? It's not the whole year?
Correct.
Okay.
The budget is for the whole entire year, and then the mid-year is from July through December.
Okay, yeah, just because if you look at the numbers at a glance, it's
Yes.
like, oh my God, we're really
Yes.
way off. But no,
Right.
this is just
Yes.
where we're going to
Yeah.
see if that we're right on target. Okay, thank you.
It just gives you an idea of how we're doing financially the first half of the year.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions, Woody. Is it typical for SYCSD to not track at 50% since we're at the midway point in the year? 29% payment to date?
Yeah, It has to do with when we bill them and then when they pay.
Okay. And they're on schedule. I would infer from.
They'll pay, yeah, by the
I'm
end
sure
of the year.
they will.
Yeah. They have to pay.
Wendy used to work here.
That's why, probably
Always know we
why.
only have 6 months left. Okay. Question on the American Rescue Plan Act revenue. So we've gotten it looks like we've gotten 2 years grant money.
Yes. And we will
Roughly
get-
at about 800,000 and change, is that right?
Correct, yes.
So what is our plan? Will we get that revenue again next year? Or
We will get that this year, yes, and we haven't received it yet.
Okay.
And next year, yes.
So that's run rate, and we're good. We don't need to worry about backfilling that
No.
as we go into next fiscal
Yeah.
year. Okay, perfect. Same for there seems to be an influx with regard to an insurance, what was it, a reimbursement?
That insurance reimbursement was for the fraud that happened last year.
Okay. And I wanted answers to those 2 questions so that I could feel really good about that 50%. Okay. And just one thing that I make sure I'm following the numbers correctly. I may not understand. On that page 55, the table that shows our tax revenue at 3.89 million doesn't add up to the TOT of 3.4 and the sales tax revenue of 820K. It should be 4.2. Or did it fall into another category? Thanks, Brad. Fair enough. I'm on the very first page of your report, and the bottom table. Yeah, thank you, Anna Marie.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That bottom table, the very first 22 to 23 tax revenue. It should be, I think it should be 4.2 million. Because you're telling us above that it's 3.4 million in TOT and 820K in sales tax. Or do I misunderstand something?
So you're saying the actual revenue of 5.4, those don't add up?
No. The tax revenue total,
Tax revenue,
3.8.
yeah, 3.8,
Uh-huh.
should be a total of TOT plus sales tax?
We don't have Measure U yet, so.
No, she's telling us what
That's
sales-
property tax revenue
Okay.
as well. And then you have the grant revenue, and then you have other.
Okay, well, could you just check those numbers? I
Yes.
went through your more detailed report and still couldn't match those numbers, but I'm just wondering if we're actually doing better on the revenue side.
I will have to look.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark, you had a.
Yeah, this is just not ancillary, but it's a small percentage, but I didn't see every number here. Are we adjusting any of the range for city manager position on this?
No.
Okay. That would be something down the road.
Yeah, you mean when you hire a new city manager?
Yes.
Yes.
If that comes into play and that's something that we need.
You will need to fully fund that.
To that card in our deck, if we choose to raise that dollar amount to bring in top quality versus what we're paying you.
Ooh, that hurt.
He did it voluntarily.
Yes, when you approve that new contract, you will also need to approve the budget to.
If necessary.
If necessary.
Correct. Thank you very much.
I'm leaving now.
When's your last day?
Any other comment?
Anybody, raise your hand if you want to be a city manager.
I don't have any speaker slips for this particular account. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this agenda item? Anybody on Zoom that would like, do you want to speak?
What fraud?
That's a good question.
I'm just asking, what fraud?
Please come up and talk into the microphone.
Sorry. I'm trying to shut up back there. What fraud were you talking about?
That's something that happened a while back. It was brought up at a prior council meeting, but we are not going to address your question directly and give you an answer.
That's fine.
It's being worked on.
Okay.
It was a problem. Thank you, though. Anybody else? Okay, so at this point in time, then, we're looking for a motion, unless there's any last comments, a motion to approve this adjustment to the budget at mid-year to add in the 600 and, I lost it, where'd it go? 61, oh no, 60, there it is. 522,000, is that what it is? Okay. So, comments, questions, or a motion?
I'll move to approve staff's recommendation of adjusting the budget by the $522,831.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go to the next agenda item, please.
Discussion and possible action to approve the installation of streetlight banners and temporary modification to crosswalks on Copenhagen at First Street and Second Street in support of Pride Month during the month of June.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, Anna Marie, Mr. Mayor. In advance of Pride Month and...
Get right into
Is this thing on? So in advance of Pride Month, we've had, the city's received a couple applications, one for banners and the other for crosswalks. And we wanted to bring both items to City Council tonight for staff to get some direction from council on how to proceed with these two applications. So with that, the first one is banners. So we received an application for a streetlight banner, and in reviewing the banner program, there is a pretty stated purpose. It says the purpose is to assist the advertising and promotion of destinations or events that support tourism for the city of Solvang, and that includes City of Solvang special events or designs promoting Solvang's Danish theme. And it also specifically says it is not for supporting political or religious purposes or support of private financial gain that does not promote tourism for the city of Solvang. So we're just seeking staff direction, or we're seeking a direction from council on whether the proposed banner installation is in alignment with what council wants to see and is in alignment with our program. This is a bit of a gray area. Here is the design for the proposed banner. And again, this is kind of the early stages. You have the proposal up? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. All right. So here's the proposed banner design. And again, this is the initial submittal. We would work with the applicant. If this is something we would move forward with, we'd work with the applicant on sizing and everything else and making sure that it's something that would fit on our streetlights. But at this point, we're just seeking direction from council as to whether this is something that council would support and wants to move forward with. The next item, or the next part of this, or facet to it, is crosswalks. So in regards to the crosswalk site design, there's a request to modify city crosswalks. Let me use my pointer here. Okay, so site one would be at the intersection of First Street and Copenhagen. It's kind of hard to see on this. It's a little bit small, but you can see it on the big screen. And then the other location would be the two crosswalks at Second Street in Copenhagen. So the proposal is for a rainbow-style crosswalk, which is consistent with the kind of the messaging of the messaging and the theme of the Pride. There are 6 total locations. Again, 2 crosswalks at Second Copenhagen, 4 at the First in Copenhagen. And we're seeking direction from council regarding the appropriateness and desirability for the temporary rainbow crosswalks in Solvang's downtown. It could be construed as public art, which is allowed in our TRZ zoning, but that would be subject to the DRC review and approval. Now, the one caveat on that is if we do bring it to the DRC, the installation of crosswalks, they may say we're going to put a blue, and it might not be the exact blue that they approve. It's going to be hard to match. It's not like you go to Home Depot and pick up a can of traffic paint. So these would have to be specially made, so we would try to match the best we can. In regards to the other facet of crosswalks is, are they still going to function as a crosswalk and be safe? So that's what we took a look at. So non-standard crosswalks are becoming more acceptable. It is generally up to the local jurisdiction to approve. There are 3 existing non-standard crosswalks on Atterdag across from the Solvang School, Solvang Elementary School. And although the colors are standard, the colors are yellow and white. There is 1 brick paver crosswalk in Copenhagen between First and Alisal, and that is bounded by a couple concrete ribbons, and it's brick pavers. So it does function as a crosswalk, and it certainly serves a purpose. We did, considering the site locations, we got slow speeds, we got stop control at all but one of the crosswalks. The only crosswalk that is not stop controlled is the one on Copenhagen at 2nd Street. Everything else has a stop sign leading up to it, so people are required to stop. Whether they do or not is another matter, but we do our best. The colors on the colors are contrasting, so it would be noticeable. The proposed colors are contrasting, and it is temporary, of temporary nature. The proposal is for not only the banners, but the crosswalks to be in for the month of June, and then be removed. Ideally, we would work with the contractor to make sure that they were removed, basically right at the after the Pride event, which is scheduled, I think, on the 25th of June. So right after the following week, they would be removed and put back in advance of the 4th of July event. But this is probably how we would try to work it out. And what I would recommend is an alternative crosswalk design than what they've proposed, which is to be banded by a white stripe on the outside. You can see here, this is an existing crosswalk that was recently installed across 246 over by the Mission, not Mission, by the casino. So they have 2 new crosswalks there. So and I've sat through meetings with proposing alternative crosswalks with Caltrans, and they are receptive to them. Although they'll say, you got to, hey pal, if you want to put it in, you got to own it. So I'm sure that's what the casino worked out. But these are installed. They are alternative crosswalks, but they are banded by the white stripe. So that would be one requirement that we impose if this is something that's approved by council. Is we would want to see the white band on either side with the rainbow ladder style in the middle. So the action tonight is we're asking to either approve or deny the Pride Month banner consideration and direct staff to process the banner permit accordingly. Either approve or deny the consideration for the Pride Month crosswalks for placement in the city of Solvang downtown and direct staff to process the appropriate process accordingly, which would be likely bring it to the design review committee for review as public art, and then subsequently the encroachment permit from Public Works, and then approve or deny the placement of the alternative style crosswalk in the city of Solvang downtown, which is kind of the traffic safety element to it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments, and the applicant is here to make a statement as well, if you'd like to hear from him.
Okay.
We have questions of staff first.
Yeah, let's get questions of the staff report first, if we
I
can.
have one question. As Pastor Brown said, Christmas and Danish Days are special interest groups as well. Have we ever painted our sidewalks for 4th of July or for Danish Days or for Christmas?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
There is decoration of public art, but I don't think we've painted anything or altered any colors of any city facilities.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. Historically, what events or what special commemorations have we displayed on the light pole flag?
Thanks for asking that earlier. I have that list right here. The typical Solvang red banners, which is what we used to only have, was the Solvang logo on there. Then there was banners promoting Solvang that IDK put up, that Able Skeevers, Wine, Dine, Skull, that type of thing. The Overhog Museum, Eulafest has had light pole banners. The Solvang Chamber of Commerce did Music in the Park and the Scarecrow Fest. PCPA has done streetlight banners. And then pre-COVID, we did Taste of Solvang, the Wiley Museum, Fig Fondo, and Solvang Third Wednesday. So those are the events that have had streetlight banners approved by the city.
Other comments? Yes, sir.
Roger, in that policy that we have, what specifically do you want direction for? What is giving you indigestion on that policy?
Just give me a moment here. Let me
Yeah.
pull up the actual. Yeah, there's it go. I have it printed here somewhere in all these papers. So it's basically the is this proposal promotion, destination, events, and support of tourism for the city of Solvang, and is it a is the Pride Month, or is that a city-sponsored special event? And is it designed promoting Solvang's Danish theme? And also, is it what can this be defined as what is not intended, which is to support a political or religious purpose, for the purpose of primarily involving private financial gain? So. So we're seeking direction as far as whether this is something that the city of Solvang can support, and we feel that it is promoting the city of Solvang and tourism.
But the applicant also has a store that sells Pride products, and he's asking us to put Pride flags up and down Mission Drive.
That is correct.
Interesting.
You can address that to him when he asks him as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have two questions. Is there, just based on what Robert just asked, have we painted bright colors anywhere in the tourist zone in Solvang on the streets?
Not to my knowledge, except for bright white.
There was one letter that gave me pause because, although I haven't ever been on the Solvang trolley, the horses, which is unique to Solvang, are traveling on that particular street. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, to follow up, now, let's wait till we get to comments. Let's get to the public, and I have a large list, so I'm going to ask all of you that are going to be speaking to please stay to 3 minutes. Please hold your applause so that we can get through this, or we're going to be here all night. I appreciate your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to have the applicant speak first?
He's got a list. He's the first person on the top of my list.
Perfect.
So let's start with Mr. Jesse Bengoa. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I'm not the applicant, but I was the first one to turn in a slip.
I am the applicant.
But it's also...
Okay, so speaking.
I'm sorry?
It's your decision. I was first to turn in my slip, but he's the applicant.
And what's your name?
Jesse Bengoa.
I apologize. I thought you were the applicant. Okay. Well, let me get the applicant first. Let's hear from him, and then you will hear all the comments.
Mr. Mayor, may I bring up, when people come up and speak, during public comment about an issue on the agenda, it's not a back and forth, correct?
Correct. We are not going to.
So we should be asking our questions now of staff.
We have already
before.
done that.
Okay.
Then we'll hear their comments, and then we'll get our
I
comments.
just have one more question of staff.
Okay?
Is the applicant the same person that tried to bring a drag show for children in December?
I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe he can address that. Okay.
Okay, let's
If
just,
you like, you can address the applicant when he speaks, so you can ask him some questions at that point.
Okay, thank you.
the applicant, sir, what was your name, please?
Kyle, K-I-E, last name Cavalli.
Ah, there we go. Thank you.
Should we start with questions? Thank you guys for allowing me to come before you today and for the community of who we are to be represented here as well. My name is Kyle, my husband's name is Matt, and we are founders of the Rainbow House Inc., which is a nonprofit. It's a registered 501c3. Our mission is to create a permanent resource center focused on counseling, testing, workshop, and resources for the LGBTQIA+ community and allies right here in the San Ynez Valley. Visibility, equality, equity, and inclusion is something that we often hear, but unfortunately is something that does not include the LGBTQIA+ community. We stand here before you, letting you know that your approval of these banners and crosswalks for the month of June, which is Pride Month, would send a message to our local community, the queer community and beyond, that the city of Solvang hears us, sees us, and supports us. We also own the children's toy shop Wonder Child. We have a pride flag outside of our windmill. The amount of people, both locals and tourists, that come to our shop to take a picture in front of that flag is incredible. We hear stories of how amazing it is to see that in the community and how welcome they feel. Growing up in the valley as a child, the impression this would have left on us would have been unmeasurable. Growing up and not seeing anything that resembles who I am or speaks to who I am in a authentic way leaves a pretty sad void in one's heart. We were happy to see that statement Greg Hart and Lois Capps did in Isla Vista. They created what they called a pride block. It's a 4-way stop crosswalk that is permanently painted with the progressive pride flag colors. It shows their students that they are safe and welcome. It's the first of its kind in all of Santa Barbara County, and we hope that you would allow the city of Solvang to be the second.
Did you want to ask a question, Mr. Clark?
No, well, my question was, it was you put on the kids' drag show at the Craft House, or you tried to last year, correct?
Correct, but the time...
For children?
It was a tea time for both adults and children, and basically because of timing within the year and financial consideration of it being in December, we decided to postpone it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, sir. That's it.
Perfect.
Jesse, thank you very much for your, please, hold on. Thank you for your indulgence, Jesse.
No problem.
I would love to hear from you now, please.
Hello again. I am Jessie Condit Bengoa. My Danish family has resided in this valley since 1936. We own businesses here as well as commercial property on Copenhagen Drive. My grandfather was mayor of Solvang and also sat on the city council. My father was on the planning commission. My young children are 6th generation residents of Solvang. We've served this town for 90 years. Personally, as I mentioned before, I'm a brand marketing executive, and it's in this capacity, as well as being a commercial property owner, 5th generation resident, and in my professional capacity that I stand before you today in strong opposition for this proposal to paint the crosswalks and the banners in Solvang to display pride colors during the month of June. I'll start by saying this, and I think it's important. The great majority of us, even those here to oppose it tonight, I think we can agree that with kindness and with community in our hearts, that everyone deserves a right to find and have love in their lives. I am not here in any capacity whatsoever to judge or to admonish the LGBTQ plus community, and I think that's important to say. With that said, our town has a culture, we have a heritage, and we have a brand that's unique and it's differentiating. We're a charming, welcoming, beautiful Danish-American community. It's the first rule of branding to know who you are and to unwaveringly stick to it. You don't confuse, you don't divide, you don't alienate visitors or potential visitors by suddenly waging a woke campaign, and I think that word is appropriate here, a woke campaign that is not inclusive, it's divisive. This isn't about gay or straight. This is about a public campaign that would push this ideology in front of our already established and welcoming brand of the city of Solvang. We, Solvang, have always been a welcoming place. That's us. We don't need to paint crosswalks in rainbow colors to somewhat say, especially when it's a divisive initiative and not an inclusive one. If inclusivity is the logic here, then why only celebrate this group? Are we then going to paint the crosswalks for every holiday that celebrates every race, every color, and every creed? Furthermore, what this proposal is telling me is that when I spend time with my gay friends, I should be dressed in head-to-toe rainbow colors. Otherwise, I somehow don't care about them or somehow don't celebrate them for the people that they are, not just their orientation. Let's stick to who we are and what we are, a Danish-American village where we welcome everyone based on our actions, kindness, and hospitality, not by emblazoning the town with rainbows. First, it was a pride parade through downtown Solvang this past June, then the drag show idea in December. Next, there was the city's Valentine's Day social media post featuring a gay couple, and now rainbow sidewalks. Again, if you want this city to carry forward with a strong brand in the future, stay true to who and what we are. As a business owner, commercial property owner, and fifth-generation Danish resident, I am strongly opposed to this initiative and to the city even considering this without a special meeting of property and business owners.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to remind the city that you do have a sign ordinance that you force all business owners to apply to. You should follow your own rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please hold your applause. If you can't hold your applause, I will clear the audience. Thank you very much. Damien Kreitman?
Thank you. I've been a resident here since 2012, and it's my first time speaking. The banner policy included in the city banner guidelines and application states specific language regarding the purpose of the street banners. The policy states, this program is not intended to support political or religious purposes or purposes primarily involving private financial gain that do not promote tourism or the city of Solvang. The very first line of the discussion states, June was officially declared Gay and Lesbian Pride Month by President Bill Clinton in 1999. For those of you that have forgotten, Bill Clinton was a politician. This declaration was made whilst in office. This declaration was, and remains political. Pride Month was a political creation by a politician. Therefore, this application fails your own test in the opening sentence and should never have been included on the agenda. Furthermore, as we all know, the application was made by someone who has a vested interest in a for-profit business. Therefore, this application fails for a second time as it involves private financial gain. Additionally, this application is unlawful and contravenes US Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration's updated manual on the uniform traffic control devices for streets and highways. If the council moves forwards with this, they will be subject to complaints with the Sheriff's Department against each of them personally, and given that this is now all a matter of public record, your knowledge becomes evidentiary. we can then, or we, or whoever, can then actually bring civil lawsuits against this council. Then you will be using taxpayers' money to defend yourselves against the taxpayers who brought this very point to your attention. Nothing in this application fits with the Danish theme of Solvang, nor does it make any reference to the financial benefits, nor does it add any assistance to areas of Solvang that really require taxpayers' money to be allocated to, such as roads, parks, or public safety. Finally, and if this application is approved, then it sets precedent. Any subsequent application that is either political or involves private financial gain will have to be approved, no matter how onerous it is to residents. This city council will create a nonsensical free-for-all to be exploited by everyone forever. This application fails every policy in place. This council is here to enforce and support the rules, not to circumvent it or ignore them. You have no choice but to deny this application based on your own guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charlotte Becerra, am I saying that?
Becerra.
Becerra.
Good evening. I wrote an email this morning. My concern is over the proposed striped crosswalks in Solvang for a month later on this year. As a lifelong horsewoman, and this proposal concerns me for safety reasons. Horses, as you may know, do not have as detailed vision as we do, nor do they lack the depth perception that we as humans have. So what looks like stripes on a road to us is a treacherous void to a horse. This is actually how cattle guards work. My concern is that when horses see this succession of stripes, they will balk. Any of you that have ridden a horse know that a scared horse that refuses to go forward is a dangerous situation, particularly on pavement, for the horse, its rider, and any bystanders. I am concerned for the safety of the horses of the Honan, a treasured icon of Solvang, any horses in a parade, as well as any horses that are legally using the roadway at any time for that matter. As you probably know, horses and horse-drawn vehicles still legally have the right-of-way in the state of California. My husband, Ramon Becerra, who is an acclaimed horseman that has put horses in the most unusual places, such as on stage in music concerts, performed in ballrooms full of people, ridden in presidential parades and in football games, and even taken rides in elevators with his horses. He has always done this safely. When I described the proposed stripes on the roadway to Ramon last night, his response was, "Oh no, that's not going to work. The horses will refuse." Santa Ynez is a valley full of horses, and Solvang hosts numerous parades throughout the year with many equestrian entries in them. June 24th is the Pride Parade, and July 4th parade is merely 10 days later. Parades are a very high-energy event already for horses, and it is my hope that all equestrian entries will continue to enjoy a safe route for all parades in Solvang. If stripes are painted on the roadways and an accident does occur, who will be liable? The city of Solvang or the event organizer? That is another factor to consider when making this decision. I ask that you consider the safety of the valley citizens, visitors, and our beautiful horses when deciding on this proposal. Crosswalks are a safety feature of a roadway, and please do not make them a hazard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kevin Keating, sir.
Thank you to the council and to the mayor and to everyone here on both sides of the issue. I hope we can come together no matter what the outcome is. And that's what's most important. I want to start with my statement quoting the founding fathers of this country who created the motto in 1782, E pluribus unum, out of many one. They adopted this obscure Latin saying with the intention of representing, there were 13 letters in it, representing the 13 original colonies with the hope that they wouldn't become divided like Europe into 13 different countries, but would come together as a union. Intersectionality is at the heart of any movement to represent a special interest group that has been historically underrepresented, and I would stipulate that. There has been discrimination in America against gay marriage, things like that, that has changed. And Mr. Cavalli didn't feel he had any community when he was growing up in high school, as he said, but now he's literally able to have a store, have his flags, have his community come up here. I think Solvang's already very popular with the lesbian, gay, and community. So intersectionality by its nature is divisive, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean it literally divides people into genders, sexual orientations, races, religions, immigration status, politics, economic status, disability, age. There's even something called BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous People of Color, which does exclude white people. Taking the realm of LG, it used to be lesbian and gay rights. Then it became lesbian, gay, and bisexuals who were left out. Then it's become LGBT, then LGBTQ, and I honestly don't know what the Q, well, I know what queer means, but I don't know what that means in that context. And as we heard today, LGBTQIA+. So I don't know what's more divisive than dividing everyone into these little subcategories. And I'm not kidding about this, and I'm not trying to poke fun at it. This started in academia, and like many academic theories, critical theories, they don't work in the real world, where people intermingle.
What?
And it doesn't work, and it will not work here. Obviously, on one hand, the person proposing this would say this is not a political proposition. Well, by its very nature, it's political. We have people shouting, people clapping for both sides. It's so political that this room is full, and you've gotten, I believe, dozens of emails talking about this issue. That, by definition, makes us political, okay? Shouting makes it political. Clapping makes it political. And I would just second what everybody else has said, that it will dilute the Danish character. If we were to have every group, we only have 12 months in a year. We could not even have, is that 3 minutes?
Wrap it up.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. I truly hope that we can rise above our individual desires to be recognized and come together as a community. And I do welcome every aspect of our community. I feel welcome as part of this community myself. I hope that no matter what the outcome of it is of this, that we can all still come together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Laura Ishikawa?
Mayor Infante, City Council members, thank you. My name is Laura Ishikawa, and I'm here to support the Rainbow House, the banners, and the Rainbow Crosswalks. I've been a Solvang resident for 27 years, and I'm also a Yonsei, or fourth generation Japanese American. Both sides of my family were interned during the war in Manzanar, Gila River, and Tule Lake. The U.S. government sent a message, we don't want you, and you don't belong. After the war, my uncle was unable to purchase a house in Berkeley that he wanted for his family, again because they told him, we don't want you, you don't belong, you're Japanese American. Japanese Americans at this time chose not to teach their children the Japanese language in order to show that they were more American. They also destroyed photos and family heirlooms and anything that connected them to their heritage in order to not stick out and to hide part of who they were. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go as well. The pride flag symbolizes many things for those who are in the LGBTQIA+ community, and they can speak to what that means to them. But it also holds great meaning to those other parts of the community. And for me, it's a visual message of being welcoming and belonging. All are welcome and all belong. And you don't have to hide who you are. As our two signs coming into our city say, welcome to Solvang. I hope that you can support the Rainbow House's request for the banners and the Rainbow Crosswalks during Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trish Hecker?
Hello. Thanks for letting me speak tonight.
My name is Trish Hecker. I have lived in the Valley for 15 years, and I am a mom of 2 teenagers. I hold a master's degree in social sciences with an emphasis in human development and education studies. I also have a certificate in sexuality education. My profession is a sexual health and sexuality educator. My life's work is dedicated to helping schools, communities, families, parents, and youth learn how to communicate about sexuality and sexual health, because when we don't, our youth suffer, especially our LGBTQ youth. In 2019, the Trevor Project conducted a cross-sectional national survey of LGBTQ youth across the United States. With over 34,000 respondents, it is the largest survey of LGBTQ youth mental health ever conducted and provides a critical understanding of the experiences impacting their lives. 39% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past 12 months, with more than half of transgender and non-binary youth having seriously considered this. 71% of LGBTQ youth reported feeling sad or hopeless for at least 2 weeks in the past year. CDC's 2017 Youth Risk Behavior Survey data showed substantial health disparities that exist among an estimated 2.6 million LGBTQ youth. Compared to their heterosexual peers, LGBTQ youth are more likely to have been bullied at school, seriously considered suicide, felt sad or hopeless, used illicit drugs, misused prescription opioids. This is why I am asking you to vote to improve the installation of streetlight banners and temporary modification to crosswalks on Copenhagen at 1st Street and 2nd Street in support of Pride Month during the month of June. Research indicates, and families, schools, and communities tell us that when our LGBTQ youth see that they are supported and are seen and heard by their community, their mental and physical health is positively impacted. When our community shows support for our LGBTQ folks, they are also saying that acts of hate and bullying will not be tolerated. I know that our community cares about its youth, but does it show that it cares about all of its youth? Please show our LGBTQ youth and members of our community that you care about their lives by voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Chris Brown.
Thank you for letting me speak. I had something prepared for today, and after hearing some of the comments, I'm kind of going off the cuff here. And I think there's a lot of what's being discussed in our nation that's coming into the comments that are being said. And what I'd really like to focus on is, one, what Trish just said. Those statistics are concrete statistics, and those are statistics that deal with our children here at our local high school. We can talk about Solvang being a welcoming place, but just last year, a couple of young individuals took 2 pride flags down and then filmed themselves burning them and saying that that was gay people's futures, right here in Solvang. So we can't say that Solvang is a welcoming place when our own citizens are making it feel dangerous for a portion of our society. It is important for us to show that we see people who historically have not been seen. I encourage you to look at this as a local matter and look at what has happened here in our own town and consider the people that live in this town. We can also talk about a town who owns pride flags and has a vested interest. How many stores sell Danish stuff during Danish days when we put banners up and have parades? I would also ask that you please just be fair with what we do with all of the other activities and events and people here in this town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Cynthia Matthews.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and people here. My family has lived in this valley for over 40 years. My niece and nephew were born and raised here. I recently lost my wife of 30 years and decided to move back here. I did it because Solvang has been open and accepting. And it grieves me to find that there are many people that can't accept that. It's interesting to me that you have issues with someone dressed like a woman. Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit exaggerated. Yeah, sometimes I don't get it myself. But it's interesting that you open arms to somebody dressed like Santa Claus, the Grinch, or elves running around, and that's okay, because it's a Christian thing. I'm not anti-Christian. In fact, I was born and raised in a Christian family. And one thing that really is astounding to me is I have a nonprofit that I work with seniors and people with disabilities and veterans in rural communities. And the people that opposed us the most were churches. Why? Because my wife and I were lesbians. They fought against us, yet we fed, over COVID, over 2,500 people per week, and the churches were pissed. They didn't want to feed faggots. They didn't want to feed lesbians. They didn't want to feed people that were living in sin. And you know, it's interesting to me, because if Jesus walked in that door right now, many Christians here today would never accept him. He stunk. He had dirty feet. He hung out with fishermen that stunk like fish. Jesus loved people. He ministered to the sick and to the homeless and people that needed to be embraced. And that's what we need to do as human beings. I've traveled the world. I've been to Turkey and Greece. I was there when the Arab Spring, just before it popped off. People came to me and said, "Are you family?" That's 3 words. Anywhere that I've traveled in this world. And the person that was our tour guide was a Muslim lesbian woman. And she approached me and my wife, "Are you family?" We said yes. She said, "Stick close by." Things popped off when we were at the Spice Bazaar. They came after Americans because somebody, a Christian, had burnt the Quran. What they didn't realize is you placed a lot of American tourists in death's way. We were ushered out and protected because my family came to our rescue. And they made sure that we went back home safe. And what I'm asking this community to do is stop the vitriol. A banner, really? And coloring the street in order to recognize community members. You talked about marketing. You talked about people marketing. How did we do that? You do that by accepting people. Gay people spend a lot of money. They'll fill these hotels. They will buy up a lot of the stuff. They feed their families. They eat. They drink, sometimes excessively. But they're part of this community. They pay taxes. So because I don't have blonde hair, blue eyes, and, dress Danish, that means we're not going to be accepted? This is America, and we stand on freedom. We stand on acceptance of others. And all I'm asking is that this be supported, not because of hate or some wokeism, but because you openly open your arms and you tell people, as a part of this community, we accept you, we love you. I'm a Christian, I accept you, and I love you. I may not agree with you, but my dictates as a Christian human being say, when I look at you, you're beautiful because God created you. God doesn't make junk and he doesn't make mistakes. And he created me to being who I am and to love the person that I love. And all we're asking is for a fair shake in this community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greg Ulrich?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for recognizing Robert Clark and the public input last time and break the tie. It was good. It may be tough.
You just made a lot of enemies.
So I'm here just to express my support for the, I guess you want to call it the legalistic view on this, is the banners, the street colors, the horses, all of those, they're good testimony. And I'd support that. I also looked around the valley yesterday as I went out looking for snow, took the e-bike out. I watched the families, a lot of families walking up into the hills, and then they came down into Solvang and got some coffee, and it was warm, and the people we're trying to draw to the town, recreation, wine, Danish, heritage, et cetera, et cetera. So like marketing, people have talked about, they find your niche, work it, and make it work for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pete Thompson?
Good evening, Council. My name is Pete Thompson. I am a lifelong Valley resident, Solvang business owner, and speaking against the banners and crosswalks, mainly because it is definitely, as we can tell, what's happening here right now. This is a very heated political issue, and we're opening Pandora's box here. If this is allowed, then anybody can come in here, it doesn't matter who it is, and you have to let them in. So being here as a kid during Danish days and celebrating what this town is means a lot to more than just the people here sitting in the room. That's what made, like Robert made the comment, people know what Solvang is. They know. And we don't need a website to tell the world what Solvang is. People know. And it's been here for 100 years. People come to Solvang for what it is. We don't necessarily need to change it. I have nothing against the LGBTQ community, but we're going to lose sight of what made Solvang Solvang. We don't need to change it. It's fine. Plenty of people are coming to Solvang to come to Solvang. And well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the last speaker slip that I have. Do we have somebody else that would like to speak? And we do. Thank you. Jason Stone?
Hello, council members and Mr. Mayor. My name is Jason. I hold a Master of Science in Health Promotion, and I have served as a health educator, specifically in sexual health and relationships, health data analyst, and I currently manage health communications at UC Santa Barbara. Having worked closely with health data in my time, both with the American College Health Association and Santa Barbara Public Health, I know that BIPOC and LGBTQA+ community members are historically and currently experiencing disproportionate levels of mental health risks, suicide, and suicidal ideation. Representation is the catalyst to change to support LGBTQIA people. Enabling members of our community to feel seen, represented, and embraced as members of the larger community will have a profound impact. Telling any population that they are safe, recognized, and welcome to live authentically in all communities is such a critical message. It saves lives. It changes the lived experience of many for the better. This isn't about divisiveness, it's about inclusion. Until LGBTQIA+ people are no longer marginalized, there is and always will be a need for unique recognition. We all have a family member, a friend, a community member who is LGBTQIA+, whether or not they are out. The community exists. And it is important for everyone to feel represented, acknowledged, and loved by the larger community. These flags and crosswalks are a sign of that visibility and love. And for that reason, I strongly urge you to explore opportunities and pathways to get these approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David Sillig, is it?
Silva, but it's
Silva?
I should have been a doctor.
Yeah, really, the way you write, you should have been.
Would have done great prescriptions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I want to just take a moment to first talk through the element of, I find it strange, you just heard my husband speak, and I've been informed that our existence is political. And I don't think that anyone usually has to face a day where, by the nature of existing, I have to justify that my existence is not a political statement, it's who I am. And I ask that when considering what we're discussing here, we're talking about taking a part of who you are and saying, well, it makes someone possibly uncomfortable. It makes someone feel questioned about what the values are that are being presented. But yet, I have a right to exist, and I have existed here this entire time. We have had people who have come out and had to express the fact that this is more than just a commercial experience. This is a chance to say that Solvang stands with its queer community. We do spend money. We are part of your tourism. Solvang has a gay element to it that is celebrated in our communities, and yet when it comes time for Solvang to say, like, yep, we support that, it becomes a statement of, but do we? Are we willing to have our name attached to this? My partner, my husband, went through cancer treatment, but we didn't hear apologies because at first people thought he had AIDS. I've been called a fag in this community in the last 2 years, more than I can count. And it's uncomfortable to be told that homophobia doesn't exist in this area, that we're just like everybody else, and not have it be told from people who have that lived experience, who know what it's like to be scared to hold your hands, to be asked to, are you splitting bills because you must be roommates? When we moved here, we had to have a question about, is it okay to go to the Valley? I'm from Orchid, went to Santa Barbara, and then landed here, and I want this to be my forever home. Jason and I want to make this our home. And I'm asking you to acknowledge that we're part of your community, and this means so much to that. I also know everyone has referenced Danish elements to this, so I'd like to just bring a few items up that if you truly value, I can't do, my phone just died, great timing for that. It was really good, but what I'd like to point out to you though is that your Danish heritage is rooted in a country that has led the way in LGBTQ rights. That is Danish heritage. Legalizing gay marriage faster than most of the world. Making trans rights faster than most of the world. So if we're going to say that we need to honor our Danish heritage, don't pick and choose what Danish heritage you want to celebrate, because they've been leading the way, and we're asking you to keep up with them. If you want to ask what the pride flag is, that was made by a veteran. If you honor vets, you are part of the pride flag. It was a veteran who got drafted, and his family hoped it'd butch him up. This pride flag is more than a political statement. It is a historical relevance that has been erased by our country for so long. And all we're saying is please stop removing us from the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else? I don't have any more slips. Do we have anybody? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Addison Oliverty, and I'm 15 years old, and I live in San Ynez, and I attend the local high school. My stepdad was born and raised here in the Valley, and I've just recently moved up to San Ynez around Christmas time. But before I lived here, I would love to come visit town, as most people do. And recently, I came out to my parents as bisexual. But before coming out and moving here, I would walk around Solvang looking at the shops. And suddenly, I would feel very happy when I would spot a pride flag hanging above a store. It would make me feel safe and welcome, especially as a closeted teen. And now that I am out and seeing more flags, I feel represented, loved, and safe here in the Valley. Having been a closeted queer, seeing queer representation is a calming and reassuring aspect a town should have. And being at a new school, I've had the feeling that people won't like me because I'm queer, which is what a person should never have to feel. I've also heard from fellow pupils that they feel they can't come out to their parents. I think most people will agree with me in here that as a teenager, you are sometimes unable or not allowed to express how you feel or what you believe in. And with having the experience of not being able to do so, seeing a pride flag or a pride crosswalk per se, it gives youth a sense of knowing that you matter and that you are loved. I hope this town can give me, my friends, my family, and people that I don't even know the representation and safety they need. And so, as a representative of the queer and youth community, these crosswalks are symbols to people that they are welcomed and safe in this town and among the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the room then? Yes, ma'am.
Listened to all the comments, and it's good that everybody's come and talked about this. I hope that people here, part of the LGBT community, if this is not passed, don't view that as people in Solvang discriminating, not caring about them, not loving them. I live in this community, and I don't agree with the proposal, but it doesn't mean that I hold any personal bias or hatred or not including anybody. And I hope that it's not perceived as that if it doesn't pass, because it isn't how the people here are. People here are good, and they are welcoming, and there's always going to be people who aren't. But that isn't the whole community. And I hope that's not what is perceived by the LGBT community if it does not pass. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? I think we have a hand up, or is that just a residual from before? Is that Vashti? Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, can you see me on camera?
Yes.
I actually got about 7 text messages from people about what was going on there because I had logged off. So to give you a little bit of my background, I am an Air Force combat veteran. I did contracting. I was a contracting officer, but I was also a cryptologic linguist for the Air Force. And what that is someone who learns different languages to be able to do translations, transcribe documents, etc. One of the things that we learned when we went for training is that often you have to remove your worldview because people are very subjective, and they often think when they go into a different culture or different environment that their way of thinking is the correct way. I heard someone say that she's a 5th generation Danish, and I have to say she's an eloquent speaker, straight to the point. I love her vibe. However, 5th generation Danish doesn't mean anything. There were other people here before those generations got here, and there were people before them. I feel like listening to everyone, that everyone is on opposite ends. One group is wanting this done because they want to feel accepted, and I get that. There's less than 1% Black people in Solvang. And the other group feels like they have a certain heritage, and they want to be able to maintain that. But here's the thing. Complacency is the death of any organization, any community. Progress is the key for anyone to move forward. And as a community, I have to say, my daughter and I moved here because when we came to visit, we felt accepted and safe and enveloped by the community. So my recommendation is, I personally don't agree with painting the crosswalks because I think if you open that door for one, you open it for all. However, I also don't agree with shutting the door completely. I would hope that the council can do a third option and maybe devise a way in which they can come up with a third thing, split the baby, and get a group together and devise a way that those can feel accepted during that month, which is also Juneteenth. But it doesn't have to be either or. It can be a no on this proposition, but let's leave the door open for further discussion on something else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vashti. Anybody else on Zoom? Okay, so let's bring it back to the council then. Comments at this point, anybody?
I really appreciate everyone's comments tonight. Impassioned, meaningful. Everyone, unignorable. So I just would like to ensure that the gay community feels seen, recognized, safe, and important, and welcomed. And we did that last year. I think the last council acknowledged and proclaimed June as Pride Month and approved, I think for the first time, the parade, which I think we're going to do again this year. So hopefully that's another rally point for the community. And whatever's decided tonight, please know everyone's welcome. I have a couple of concerns with the crosswalk in particular. So I'm going to pick up a theme from Vashti, is I'd like to see the crosswalk either
revamped and reapplied in a different location that does not create a safety issue for the singular thing that's unique to Solvang. I think maybe 1 or 2 cities in the entire US have horse-drawn trolleys, and that safety issue and potential liability for the city concerns me almost more than anything else, that the risk is not worth the reward. And so if the applicants would come back with a different location, might be outside intersection with that trolley, might be up for better consideration. So I'd like to move forward with the banners.
Any other comments?
I'm gonna go ahead and address the banners. I don't feel comfortable talking about the crosswalk. I love the idea of it as an art installation. I don't know how horses are gonna react to it. That's the one big problem that I have with it. And frankly, I don't feel comfortable bringing that up, but I will say, yeah, as an equestrian, I think that brings a problem. But about the banners, because I'm thinking about it, and it says that it's for promoting Solvang, promoting events. It is not for promoting political or religious messages. And while it is often tossed for political purposes, I wouldn't say that a flag that a civic group, a group of people identify with, is necessarily political. We might make it political as a society, but it's not political. So I don't think this falls. It falls in a gray area. So I asked city staff to tell us what historically has been approved so that we can have a clear definition of what's allowed and what's not. And unfortunately, that's not very helpful either. Some of them have no, it's no question. They were events that have historically been sponsored by the city. Jewel Fest, the now defunct Taste of Solvang, some events that were organized by the Chamber of Commerce. But then you have organizations like the PCPA or the Wilding Museum that obviously make contributions to the town. We could argue whether, they are city-sponsored or not. Do they promote tourism? Well, that depends on who you ask. There's people that are going to say that they see rainbow flags, they're never coming back to Solvang. There's going to be people that come specifically to see the rainbow flags. Just that there were people that came specifically here to support the MAGA Christmas, and there were people that wanted to see them go away. So does it promote business? Does it promote tourism or not? That's subjective. People are going to come here for a variety of reasons. So I'd like to, if we're going to give a group the opportunity to use city flagpoles, everybody should have that, and it should be clear in our ordinances, in our code. So let's think about it, and certainly make sure that it's fair for everybody. Those are my initial thoughts.
I want to thank everybody that's come today. There's a great deal of courage in this room, and it's much appreciated with the strength and the passion that they speak. It's understood, it's heard, and I want people that have relocated here, people that have been here for a long, long time. I haven't heard anybody that didn't say they weren't welcome. They might have a trip or a fall, but they're here and they're being welcomed. And the idea of the flag and the crosswalks, that symbolization, if you will, I don't think advances what you might hope it does. I could put up a flag that says I'm honest. Who here would recognize the flag or say that he's an honest man? Not likely. It wouldn't work. but I might have my own flag for it. And that's not to say I want to diminish that idea, but all sorts of organizations, the Elks, the Rotary, they all have their own flags and their own banners and so forth, which are part of that group and part of what they want to aspire to. The as far as being marginalized, I don't see that. I see more of the marginalization with our homeless and with our disabled. I really do. And I think those are ideas that we might spend more time on as well. But I think for the economic aspect of it and this particular application, I find that the crosswalks would be a safety issue, not just for horses, but for drivers. I'm on the street of Copenhagen every day, and there's no end to the insanity of some drivers, or pedestrians for that matter. A lot of near misses, if you will. And so from a safety perspective, I would not approve that. But as far as the banners themselves, looking at your logo, looking at the things that you've presented, I don't think it meets the tourism and the economic advantage we're looking for. Nowhere on the banner does it say Solvang. Nowhere on it says welcome, but perhaps it should say welcome in Danish. I don't know. We are all welcome. I think we've seen that. But based on what I've heard, I'm going to make a motion to deny the application for those reasons, and we adhere to the city policy and the safety issues. So I would move to deny that.
I still haven't
Okay,
spoken
before
yet.
we go that, yeah, let's finish comments first, please.
2 years ago, or whenever it was, I voted to approve the parade. I spent many years living one block off of Polk Street in San Francisco. I lived in Greenwich Village in New York City. Actually, I lived in Chelsea at 21st Street, but it was just north of Greenwich Village. This is not unusual, but I've lived this life and I've seen this. A couple of comments that, first of all, when people want to disparage anything about this damn town, I take offense to it. Because this is from living in San Francisco, living in New York, living in Chicago, been here 17 years, this is the friendliest goddamn town I've ever been in. And people here are welcoming, they're warm, they embrace everybody, and I have felt so welcome in this town that it's a wonderful, wonderful place, and everybody is open to everybody. I voted for the parade last time. Of course, I'm a redneck Republican, and I took a lot of heat for that. But you followed the rules, you did a good job, and it was a nice event. Banners for a whole month? I don't get that. That to me is political, and it serves a business. And also, I really have a big issue, and it wasn't a scheduling issue. This drag show with men dressing as women at the restaurant wasn't about scheduling. It was about a lot of heat from the GOP that caused that to be canceled. I don't know what it is about men dressing as women, twerking in front of small children that is inclusive. I'm sorry, I just don't understand that. And when somebody says not wanting the banners and the street paint means that you say we don't exist, I don't get that. I'm sorry. I see everything in I don't know where to go with this. But I support the parade. I'm completely against, especially a month-long of banners promoting one event and street corners promoting one event. I don't agree with it. I agree with Solvang. And to hear somebody say that Christmas and 4th of July is partisan offends me as an American. And as a student of history, I've read every single book there is about Guadalcanal and and Europe and what people have sacrificed to give us the right to have this debate. It is trivializing what people in this country have done. So I don't agree with banners or crosswalks. I agree with the parade. I agree with the event, but that's as far as I go. And I've gotten 41 emails of people, because I'm gonna get called a bigot tomorrow. I've been called a bigot before, I don't care. But I've got 41 emails from people that I've seen 3 here tonight that are willing to come up and stand up and speak out against something like this. That's where we're at, folks. If you don't agree with somebody, you're a bigot and you're a bad person, and that's not the case.
Do we have any, please, stop, hold it.
Stop, please,
Any other
thank you.
comments? Then I will go ahead with a couple of mine. I have a tendency, well, first off, I want to thank everybody for coming here. Like Mr. Clark, I've received a whole bunch of emails, some of them directly to me, some of them to the whole city council. I got 4 direct phone calls on the subject, and not a one of them was for this proposition. The proposition bothers me a little bit because it seems to favor one business. We got over 500 businesses in this town, and to favor one business by putting up something like this doesn't work. I would also agree with the comments made that I don't think this makes anybody more accepting, and maybe I'm wrong. This city is pretty much accepting of the people, in my opinion, in my experience around this town. I haven't seen the prejudice that seems to be being expressed. So I would have a tendency, first off, to say that doing a month-long of anything is against our procedures and policies, regardless. And then putting in these colored stripes, colored sidewalks is an issue, and I did hear from the owner of the Honan. He's concerned about what that would do to his horses and the safety of the people in the Honan that he's pulling around town. Look up around horses, I didn't know, they can't tell color. So
I haven't seen a lot of horses on Mission Drive lately, other than parades.
Well, in any case, there are some safety issues associated with it. You've heard a couple of different comments about them. It seems to favor one business and not the whole town. I think the parade is fine. Last year, I attended the event that took place over in the park, and it was wonderful. There was kids over there. There was a bouncy, what do you call it, thing, a bounce house. And there were several other events that were all done very nicely. And that's fine. I think that's great. I do not agree with the crosswalks or the banners, period. So, at this point, if there's no other comments, I will accept. Did you want to make some more comments, Ms. Rona? You looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, again, I just don't think our banner policy is clear. We see that the football team puts flags out there every time that there's a home game.
Not on our flag posts.
Not on
light
ours.
poles.
I'm just wondering if, there should be a space that is available for civic groups to use.
That would be
I could understand if we've historically only done certain things that are directly sponsored by the city, but I don't see that is the case. We could argue that non-profits such as museums or art organizations, they function very much like businesses too, under, so the Rainbow House is also a non-profit organization. We can argue whether it is tied to the business, but we also have a lot of Christmas-themed shops year-round, and we have a month-long Christmas celebration. Nobody's arguing that is favoring one business over the other. So I would just like us to review this and make sure that it's either available for the community at large or it's only available under parameters that are clear and concise. And
Is that your motion?
yes, I would love to see this review. That is my motion. Yeah.
Is there a second?
Which part? Wow, the
So
banner
Mr. Mayor,
policy?
Yeah.
there was a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor.
Motion, I apologize, you're right.
Restate your motion, please.
So, yes.
My motion is to deny the application for the banners and crosswalk.
I'll second that.
No other comments about it? Then we'll go for a vote.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Rona,
No.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona,
No.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes or fails 3-2, 2-3.
Passed.
It passes.
Denied,
3-2.
Passes.
Deny.
Motion passes.
Sorry,
The motion to deny passes. Correct?
correct.
All right, good. We can get that one squared away.
3.
Okay. So we want to go on to the next agenda item then, please.
Discussion and possible action to approve the letter of public convenience or necessity for the M Hotel at 293 Alisal Road.
Staff report, please.
Okay, let's go make out the car.
Yes, he does. Carl.
Now we get to the boring part.
Which is I. LGBTQIA.
Okay, staff report then, please, Ms. Cheka.
Good evening, everyone. The item I'm bringing before you is to approve a letter of public convenience or necessity for the M Hotel on Alisal Road. In 2010, the city council decided that they wanted the licenses that require a PCN or a letter of public convenience and necessity brought before them for consideration. And the M Hotel is requesting one of those types of licenses of the California Alcohol and Beverage Commission, or the ABC. They're requesting a Type 20 license for a wine and gift shop for guests of their hotel. So when they first approached me about this, the building department and I were, we asked them a lot of questions about the intended audience of their conversion of their coffee shop into this wine and gift shop, and they assured us that it is strictly for residents and strictly for tenants of the hotel, not for people from outside of the hotel. And so they've written a letter in accordance with the policy established by council in 2010, and I am bringing it before you for consideration tonight. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I have one question. I'm sorry, were you going to go ahead? A little bit unrelated. Whatever happened with that sign? Do you guys, nobody was here.
Sorry.
This huge orange M went up and I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
I will look into it.
There.
Yeah. Except it's not lit anymore. It's not bright orange or bright red anymore.
It's still bright orange.
I go to bed at 7. I'm never out driving when it's dark.
So,
Enforcement?
yeah, well, I can look into it again, but I believe, so they did put up the, primarily bright orange sign that I believe got taken down, and then they have the new sign that has the gray background with the giant M letter that I believe went to the DRC, the Design Review Committee. I can double check that.
So
It does come up every time I mention.
Smaller now.
Sorry, sir?
The current sign is smaller than the original one they first put up?
I think so. This was right before I started. It may be the exact same size, but they did change the coloring so it's not quite.
Just didn't stand out.
Yes, yeah, neon.
And this is also secondary, but because it's M, I had to bring it up and ask that. Thank you.
It gets brought up every time I mention the M Hotel, so
okay.
it's all good.
Welcome to Solvang.
Questions?
No.
Comments? Questions, sorry.
What is their plan for guidelines or their enforcement of having just guests use this facility?
Oh, that is a great question. No, I did give them a heads up. I was heading over here for this item.
Sorry, what was the question again?
His question was whether, how would they be enforcing that it's only open to residents? Or to like people staying at the hotel? That I do not have the answer for.
I mean, do we have indications where they have a lot of off-prem visits? They're off the beach.
Well, they don't currently have the capability to sell alcohol.
I know,
so-
but I understand, but they're not in high walk traffic.
Mm-mm.
Who's stopping by?
Well, it was mainly a condition of their application, was it not? It was only going to be served to guests. At the,
Yes. What they have made very clear is it's only available to guests. It is, I'm going to make an assumption, and I can check with the applicant, but it's not a large hotel. So my assumption is that whoever is manning the guest area may potentially be who is checking in folks. Because I don't believe they're hiring any new staff to be able to serve the new guest shop.
Could you identify for me that specific type of license? Is it open? Is it on-site consumption? Is it
No.
the sale of enclosed beverage or what?
So what it says in the staff report is that it authorizes the sale of beer and wine for consumption off the premises where sold, and minors are allowed on the premises. And they do have a few like outdoor seating areas on their property. So guests can go to that area, or they can go to their room if they choose. Or what they have also indicated to me is folks could buy like souvenirs to take back to wherever they came from.
They could buy a beer and go sit in the garden right there at the hotel.
Yes, sir.
So you're not consuming it where they're selling it, but just outside the door of where they sold it.
Yes, sir.
My question is, why do they need an exemption from council? Is that per ABC requirement?
So they're not asking for an exemption. There's 4 license types, so 5. So 20, 21, 40, 42, and 48 that require a license of public convenience and necessity. And so it's just it's a letter from your governing body that indicates that it's either a convenience or it's a necessity to be able to provide that license type in the community.
Oh, so it's just a standard requirement?
It's because of the density of licenses
Yes.
within our population. So once you get past a certain density, they all need to come, and the council needs to say, we authorize a letter of convenience to allow them to come in. Otherwise, ABC won't give them a license because there's too many.
Okay. And just of this type, so I want to clarify that, because as I indicated in the staff report, actually the majority of licenses that we have are for on-sale general eating place.
Right. No other comments? We'll take it out to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this item? Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to speak on this item? Okay, then, we'll bring it back for final comments or a motion.
A motion to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Do we need to wait?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark. Councilmember Claudia Rona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, for our next item on here, what do you have, AB 1, 2, 3, 4? Oh, we have to go to closed session, don't we? Well, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4 first, and then we'll go to closed session. So, anybody want to talk about what they've been doing in meetings lately? Okay, I've got a couple that I'd like to report. So I went through the SBCAG meeting over in Santa Barbara. I saw a presentation by the national lobbyist describing the funding for highways, and a presentation by a state lobbyist describing funding for disaster recovery, all of those which the SBCAG has been working on. Attended the LAFCO meeting, which established the board members, chairman, and locations for the meetings. I attended a car show meeting to discuss the marketing, scheduling, street marking, location for the car sign-in, etc., which was going to have to come to all of us to get this figured out, or at least through Cheryl, to make sure that we've got this laid out. This is the one that will happen in October. It used to be the old streets, windmills.
Wheels and Windmills.
Wheels and Windmills. He gave it up. The Vikings have taken it over. So it'll be the Viking Car Show.
Good.
And so, yeah, if you know Dr. Roger Lane, he is the one that's been heading this up. And we've been having meetings on it regularly. And so I met with him over at the San Ynez Auto Shop. We had a great meeting amongst small block Chevy V8s and things. Anyway. No, just ships with big motors in them. Oh, you should see the logo. It's really cool. Anyway. And then I attended the Solvang Econ Alliance Fiber Ring briefing. This is the broadband initiative to make sure that everyone has access to the internet. I still don't have any answers on how this is going to work, but I did attend the meeting. And then I attended a city leadership meeting for the Santa Barbara County, where Greg Hart gave us the update on everything that he was presenting or that he knew about at the state level. Whew. That's all I have.
Busy. I'll just report out that I also attended the SBCAG as Mark's alternate and listened in on that meeting. And last week I attended the EMA GSA February meeting. Quite a lively discussion. Were you there? Oh. That's all.
Nobody else?
Good enough.
Okay, in that case, we need to close this session and then go to closed session? Yes?
And we'll be going in pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, real property negotiations concerning the property located at 410 2nd Street in Solvang, APN 139-192-025, agency negotiator Brad Vidro, interim city manager, negotiating party Lillian Jewell of Hamner Jewell and Associate, and under negotiation are both the price and terms of payment.
The open session of the city council is closed. We'll go to closed session then. Means we need to turn off videos and set everything up.
Yeah.
I thought, we're gonna go in the other room?